Hi, I'm Mike Cosmic with the Cosmic Clash, and I'm here with Jonathan Horstmann.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's Urban Heat, along with two other fellas, Kevin and Paxel. But we're here with Jonathan. Well, let's talk about, Urban Heat. Let's talk about your most recent tour in Europe. What was your experience with that?
Europe was it was wild. It was like everything I'd ever dreamed of, and at the same time, the level of the intensity of like focus and work in being a band our size and on tour with a band at Molchat Doma's size. Just logistically, keeping up with that was just insane. And I think during the tour, I thought it was going to break me, but then I think I feel very accomplished for having done it, and feel like ready the next time that we go back. Like, okay, I know what to expect. But the crowds were amazing. Yeah, I mean, dream come true. You're playing to 1,500 to 2,500 people a night. Who don't know your music, and you just get to just put on the best show that you can, and try to convert as many fans as possible and talk to people afterwards. And I'm just stoked to go back to Europe and play some of our own shows, in smaller clubs.
With that being said, the appeal of the music, I guess we could call it dark wave, because there's this not a resurgence of it, or because it is different than I guess the new wave that was coming out of like that post-punk era back in the 80s. And what you've brought into it has this like metal, not metal, but this darker, definitely heavier side to it. And I could see that Europe definitely would. It's something that would appeal to Europeans, I suppose, because Europeans sometimes just like better music than some of us here. It just takes a little bit longer here in the U.S. It's a little bit different. What were some of the things that you learned, like I guess by staying, at hostels and stuff like that, when you returned, that you would do a little bit different?
Well, I think, we did hostels, and then we did a lot of Airbnbs, and then occasionally we'd do a hotel, just depending, right? And I mean, the cultural differences, even from country to country, were wild. I think I would, I always overpack,
Right.
And I think I would have brought less clothing, but at the same time, the like dryers aren't a very common thing. Everybody's like hang drying their stuff, and that's difficult when you're on tour because you don't really have time to. You get to wash your stuff, and then you got to get to the next place. Do differently, man. I think just not stress so much. There are some things I was stressed more about, and some things I was stressed less about. It's like any time kind of going into like a whole new situation. But there's a lot about Europe that I really miss. A lot of things made a lot of sense in the way that people do things and culturally. But I am. There are things that I'm definitely happy about being back in Texas for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. And I guess one of the things that I've been wanting to ask you about, and I unfortunately didn't have the opportunity to go and do the Cruel World. How was that? How did that come about? Yeah. Because that lineup was insane. Yeah.
So Cruel World, in 2023, we did both Cruel World and Darker Waves,
That's
which
right.
was wild. Two different promoters, and we were able to do both of them. And Cruel World was sort of, the previous year we had done our first ACL, and so we were, we had done a major festival. And Cruel World, though, ACL is something where it's like there's multiple genres, different kinds of crowds, and everything, right? Cruel World was really special because that was the first time in my life that I had seen so many people together who were all fans of the same music, all fans of dark music, and it's really, really powerful and special. And that was that led us into Darker Waves, and Darker Waves was so Molchat Doma and Twin Tribes both, I believe, were on Cruel World, so we got to become better friends with Twin Tribes and end up doing a tour with them. By the time we did Darker Waves, we were like, our trailer was close to Mulshot Doma's in the back, and so we approached them and like letting them know that we had played Cruel World with them before, and like we were big fans. And they ended up seeing some of our set. I think they watched like 4 songs, and then a couple of months later, while we were on tour with Twin Tribes, Mulshot Doma DMs us asking if we want to go to Europe with them. So it kind of all came full circle. Yeah.
That is pretty dope. I like when life kind of asserts itself or puts things in order and it's like, hey, take it or leave it. Let's talk about the most recent release, of course, last year's The Tower. It's different from the first album, Wellness. Was there anything, the way you guys wrote the album, any difference between the material, the way it came out, or a different approach onto this, The Tower?
Yeah, I think that, so Wellness was written before we had started touring, really, right? And it was kind of like a collection of songs, figuring out what kind of sound we wanted to go for. And then The Tower was something that was written right after a bunch of touring. And, you know, when you're on these smaller tours, you end up playing with a lot of different kinds of bands, you know, and getting exposed to a lot of different stuff. And I wanted to see how far I could kind of push the genre while still remaining in this sort of like dark space. I'm a guitarist, so of course I love to be able to turn up and get some feedback and stuff. But you have to create moments for that. You know, it's not, you can't just do that all the time over everything. And so in The Tower, I intentionally just made some moments, and I just wanted it to just go a little harder, go a little darker than the previous thing. And I'm pretty happy with how it turned out.
But like with the content, like one of my favorite songs, of course, is Sanitizer. I mean, what is that about? Because I have like one of the lyrics that I have here that I have to write out because I always mess up things. Is, but your operating table needs a sanitized hit. But to lead up to that, you talk about things. Is it like an argument that you're having with somebody, or is it like?
Yeah. Okay. So I think that it's more fun to kind of to let the audience, the consumer, kind of to figure out what the song is like as a puzzle. Mm-hmm. But I will say that line specifically, the song is kind of, for me, is like the idea of, in order to become close to someone, you have to trust them. You're trusting them with your heart. You know, when at the time when you actually open up and you're like allowing yourself to be vulnerable, it's like you're laying on an operating table and you're like, here you go, right? And so it's kind of like it's like if you do that, you finally get to the point where you allow yourself to be vulnerable, and it turns out that the person is a total hack and has no idea what they're doing, and you know their operating table is crusty and not clean, and so that's kind of what the idea for that line came from. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, there are moments like I always forget the title of that song, the Bullet song.
Blindfolds and Magic.
Oh my goodness, the way that song ends is intense. I guess that's where you're talking about the whole guitar riff thing is just heavy. It just comes on and you turn that thing up. It's just like at the end, it just kind of gets under you, you know? But that whole album is insane, and you have like that other song. It's almost like a sorts of a say the words. It's almost like a ballad because the album starts off like punching you right in the face, and then it goes into Sanitize, and it's an how do you say it? Amalgamation of all these I guess not feelings, but is there a certain, I guess what I'm trying to say, is there certain subjects that you kind of stick to, or is it just kind of like a story of?
It's just kind of what I mean. A lot of that was, you know, the entire thing was written in a really short period of time after coming home from a long tour, and I think that it was different segmented pieces of my feelings and thoughts and observations at that little time in my life. Just a slice of like, who was I during these 2 weeks in December of I think 2022, you know.
All right, so. Right now, let's go talk about a little bit about the future, since I guess you guys are about to tour for The Tower, right? Yeah. In support of the album, and it's tell us a little bit about that, because it's kind of like you guys are going to Louisiana, or you're heading.
Yeah,
east before you're heading west, and then
We have a Mardi Gras thing in Louisiana, but then we're going to the Southwest. So the way that we're approaching touring this year is and we've got a bunch of stuff that we haven't announced yet, that we're still kind of working out the details. But we have announced the Southwest kind of week. And what we're doing is there are a lot of regions in the country that when we do the kind of major tour, they get skipped, like Florida and sometimes the Southwest, because it just makes more sense for us to go up and around. And so we are intentionally setting aside weeks to go hit those regions, because we don't want the people there to feel, left out, because we didn't hit them last year. So I'm excited about, the Southeast, the Southwest, and then we'll do our regular run. But that's kind of why we're doing just like a week in the Southwest. It's just like, all right, like we know like Arizona, New Mexico, we haven't been to El Paso in a while, so like let's just do a week out. And it's also, we were gone so much last year that we don't want to just do a 3-month sort of thing where we hit absolutely everything, because it's not sustainable for us. And I really, really, really need to spend more time at home with my daughters as they're growing and as they're young. So we're trying to do shorter little stints, and so the first one of that will be in February when we go to the Southwest.
well, maybe as urban heat grows, you guys will get a bus, and the whole family might follow, for short stints in here and that, Well, I do wish you luck in everything that you do, because you're brilliant. I've been following, your music career for a long, long time. Is there anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, one last thing. We're up for Austin Music Award. We're actually up for 3 this year, for Band of the Year, and Song of the Year for Sanitizer, and Album of the Year for The Tower. And you can vote at Austin Chronicles website. I think that's open until January 20th. We were nominated 2 years ago for Band of the Year. We lost to Spoon. But we did win Song of the Year for Have You Ever. So that was pretty cool. So we're hoping we can take home at least one. If not, let's sweep it. That'd be so dope.
Well, Jonathan, it's always a pleasure. Till next time, man. And Mike Cosmic for the Cosmic Clash, and I'll be catching you guys later.